So now that you have your hour wheel and hour wheel washer installed, we want to go ahead and put on the dial. I will mention quickly that at least of the hand wound movements that I've worked with in the past, this hour wheel and hour wheel washer installation process is pretty common. So if you're ever taking apart a watch with a hand wound movement, keep in mind that when you take off the dial, this washer and hour wheel could come falling out. So just something to be aware of, that it is pretty common. I mean, the ETA 6497, which is very popular hand wound movement, has the same hour wheel and washer setup. But here I have our dial. This is our Rose Champagne, and you will see on the back of the dial, which you want to hold from the side, you want to avoid touching this surface at all costs even with your gloves on. Certainly not, you don't want to scratch it with your tweezers or tools, obviously, or you're going to be calling me up or emailing me for a new dial. But on the back, you have 2 feet. Those feet are oriented in such a way that they line up with the dial feet holes on the movement and line up with our dial feet screws. So I'm going to zoom into the movement here and kind of show you where those feet are going in. So here's one of our screws. Let me find it right there. That's one of the dial feet screws that we installed, and you see this hole just below it? That's where that dial feet from the dial will go in. And then there's another screw on the other side, and there's a hole just over here where it goes in. And then when you tighten down that screw, it holds the dial in place. I'm just going to give you another look at it. There's a good shot of it. See it right there, how it's cut out in the movement? That is where the dial feet is installing. So the dial orients, so like most watches, not all, but most, the crown is oriented with 3 o'clock. So I'm going to zoom back out. And essentially, you want to pick up the movement very carefully. You don't want the hour wheel and hour wheel washer to fall. Put your hand underneath it. I just put a finger underneath it and hold it with the crown stem. Don't put your finger under where the balance wheel is. You don't want to touch that, but there are other spots on the back side of the movement that you don't have to worry about holding it by. Not going to hurt anything. And then you're just going to line up 3 o'clock with the crown stem and carefully place the dial on. It went on very easily that time, and then roll it over while keeping pressure down so that the hour wheel stays in place. And now that we have gravity doing its job, we can get our screwdriver out. Ooh, be careful. Oh, it wasn't quite in place there. You want it to be flush. See how it's flush with the dial. And I am just turning that screw down until it is tightened. Go around to the other side and do the same thing with the other screw. Now, if there's any question that your hour wheel is not in place, you can turn it over get maybe 3x zoom or 2.5x zoom optivisor on, or you know, some kind of magnification. If you have our toolkit from Casker, you will have a bunch of choices in terms of your zoom, and just pull out your crown stem into the time setting position and turn the wheel. Make sure you see it moving. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look closely, you can see it. And that's it. You're done. It's starting to look like a watch.